How did Harry Houdini die? Hello, I'm Siren. Welcome to Siren Storytime. Harry Houdini, forever known as the master of escape, a man who made vanishing acts look effortless and death itself seem laughable. He was the king of comebacks, defying logic and expectations, until one fateful day when he himself became the greatest disappearing act of all. But was there more to his death? Was the man who claimed to be able to cheat death actually cheated by death? Or was it just a case of a simple punch gone wrong? The legend and the unbreakable man. To understand the circumstances surrounding Houdini's death, we must first take a step back and appreciate the man himself. By the early 20th century, he had already become synonymous with escape artistry. From escaping from the notorious Devil's Matchbox, a straitjacket designed to prevent escape, to his daring underwater escapes, he wowed audiences worldwide. In fact, at one point, he was even arrested in Great Britain for making the seemingly impossible feat of escaping from police custody look easy. Each escape solidified his legendary status, building an almost invincible mystique around him. The man was dubbed the Unbreakable Man, a title that only served to foreshadow the tragic irony of his demise. People not only believed that he was unbeatable, he seemed to believe it too, claiming he was in control of his own destiny. He said, "I have seen death many times. It has been my closest companion, and has stared at me from the ends of guns and swords, and from the edge of the sea. It is well known to me. I know its face. It has no terrors for me." Little did he know how literally ironic these words would become, the punch that changed everything. On October 1926, at the Lafayette Exchange in Montreal, Canada, Houdini took to the stage for one of his most infamous stunts yet, escaping from a Chinese water torture cell. The performance went off without a hitch. Yet what happened next would change everything. According to reports, after the show, backstage, a man approached Houdini and asked him to take a punch to the stomach. Why? Because he thought he was invincible. As the story goes, the man, perhaps testing the limits of the great Houdini's endurance, threw a solid punch squarely to Houdini's midsection. While the exact details are disputed, with some accounts suggesting that Houdini was distracted, others indicating that he wasn't, one thing is certain: this punch would prove fatal. But to be clear, it didn't kill him instantly. Instead, it marked the beginning of the end. Immediately after the punch, Houdini felt sharp pains in his abdomen, but he played it cool, downplaying the situation with a joke, saying, "That's a good one," according to Bess Houdini, his wife. However, as the night wore on, things got progressively worse. When he attempted to lie down, a searing pain struck him down. Unable to continue the show, Houdini decided to cut the rest of the performances short and retire to his hotel room. What followed was a night of excruciating pain and deteriorating health. His wife, Bess, acting as both devoted partner and medical proxy, monitored him closely. Initially, she thought it might be food poisoning. This wouldn't be the first time Houdini had escaped a perilous situation. So Bess, like their audience, perhaps was inclined to believe it wasn't something serious. Moreover, Houdini himself, being the stoic performer he was, tried to convince her that all was well. But his bravado couldn't hide the truth. As the hours passed, it became evident that something was very wrong. At dawn, when he still hadn't recovered, Bess called for a doctor, but by then it was too late. The damage had already been done. The punch may not have been lethal, but it proved to be the catalyst for a chain of events that led to Houdini's untimely death. The fatal fumble. Upon examining Houdini, the doctor delivered a grim diagnosis: appendicitis. This common ailment occurs when the appendix, a small tube-like organ, becomes inflamed. Left untreated, it can rupture, leading to peritonitis, a potentially fatal inflammation of the membrane that lines the abdominal cavity. This meant that whatever the doctor had to do, he'd have to cut open Houdini's stomach, remove the appendix, and clean out the infected abdominal area. But that wasn't going to happen. Though Houdini had been entertaining millions with his death-defying acts, he wasn't interested in dying on the operating table. He was quoted as saying, "No, no, no, no doctor will ever operate on me while I live. There's nothing under the sun that will keep me from walking out except my own free will." Tragically, his stubbornness sealed his fate. Despite the seriousness of his condition, he refused surgery, choosing instead to ride out the pain. But this decision proved fatal. Within days, his condition worsened, slipping into unconsciousness. On October, still refusing an operation, Houdini was put to bed. At 7:30 p.m., his heart stopped beating. A few hours later, he was pronounced dead. The news of Houdini's sudden demise shocked the world. With a career built around miraculous escapes, it seemed fitting that he should die mysteriously too. This was further fueled by the conflicting stories surrounding his final moments and the ambiguity of his autopsy results. The official cause of death was listed as peritonitis due to a ruptured appendix. However, questions were raised about whether his appendix had ruptured before the punch, which would make the punch indirectly responsible. If so, this could mean that Houdini's inflammatory bowel disease had finally caught up to him. But there was another theory, one that cast doubt on the medical establishment's narrative. According to Dr. J.H. Griffin, who performed the autopsy, Houdini's appendix was found to be in perfect condition. Not only was it not ruptured, it showed no signs of recent inflammation. This finding suggested that the punch might have directly caused the fatal rupture. This theory was bolstered by Bess Houdini's belief that her husband would not have succumbed to a non-fatal blow. She insisted that the punch simply triggered the rupture of a precariously healthy appendix. This conflict between medical opinion and eyewitness accounts opened the door to a myriad of conspiracy theories. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Houdini's death is the plethora of theories that have sprung up around it. These range from the mundane to the downright bizarre. Let's explore a few of the most popular ones. Medical malpractice. Given Houdini's refusal to undergo surgery, the initial medical opinion was that he died of natural causes, specifically a ruptured appendix. However, doubts were raised about whether the appendix had ruptured before the fatal punch. This led to speculation that the attending physician, Dr. John G. Tuhan, might have misdiagnosed Houdini. Was this intentional? Some wondered. Conspiracy theorists argued that Dr. Tone, by overlooking a pre-existing condition, essentially signed Houdini's death warrant. Did he rush to deliver a punchline, ending Houdini's life? Then there's the theory that the punch was no accident. Some believe that whoever punched Houdini knew full well that it would kill him. Was this a case of mistaken identity? Or was he deliberately targeted? And if so, who wanted Houdini dead and why? A less conventional theory links Houdini's death to his long-standing feud with spiritualists. Houdini was a staunch skeptic, dedicating much of his later career to exposing fraudulent mediums. He even developed a test, now known as the Houdini test, to expose fake psychics. Some believe that this crusade made him enemies in high places, perhaps even with the spirit world itself. Could there be a sinister force at play? Did Houdini's exposure of earthly frauds invite unearthly retribution? Following Houdini's death, Bess was determined to find a way to communicate with him. She began holding seances, during which she would ask him to spell out messages using a special code. The idea was that if Houdini could somehow communicate, he would spell out Houdini. Sadly, the seances never produced any definitive results. Instead, they gave rise to more questions and theories. Did Houdini manage to send a message from beyond the grave? Or were these instances merely clever hoaxes orchestrated by Bess herself? Afterward. Today, the prevailing consensus among medical professionals is that Houdini's death can be attributed to complications from a ruptured appendix. The lack of physical evidence of the rupture at autopsy has led to ongoing debates, but the medical community largely stands by its initial assessment. The enduring legacy of this enigmatic performer ensures that his death remains a topic of discussion. Even if the theatrics surrounding his passing have been somewhat exaggerated, the manner of his death remains as fascinating as any of his illusions. The punch that killed Houdini is not so much a subject of debate anymore. Instead, it serves as a reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger than fiction. What do you think of Houdini's death? Do you think it was a punch that killed him, or was it just bad luck? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.